All right, so we're going to step away from algebra for a little bit and we're going to complete a couple lessons that are related to more practical math. So the first being income versus expenses, aka a budget. So one of the first steps to being independent is comparing your income to your expenses. Can you afford yourself, right? Um, Income, when we're talking about income, it is the amount of money you get on a regular basis. It can be calculated weekly, monthly, or even yearly. When I mention expenses, I'm talking about everything that you spend your money on, from clothing to a drink at the mini mart. So when you're younger and where you are now in life, you are still living with parents or a guardian or with an adult, and you rely heavily on their support to meet your basic needs, meaning like they provide a roof over your head, provide clothes for you, you have food to eat, etc. Your main job right now is to go to school. However, it's likely that you might still have a little bit of an income, and it's going to vary person to person. So again, this is kind of meant to get your mind thinking in this direction, but there's no right or wrong answers per se. So income sources when you're younger, like I said, may be more variable, less consistent. There's no right or wrong, and they can vary from month to month. But some of the possible examples of income that I found students your age may have would be maybe you get money from a family as a birthday gift, or money for a holiday like Christmas or another holiday event. Maybe you get an allowance from a parent for taking out the trash every week or doing your chores, or maybe when you ask nicely, they will give you money to go out and do something with your friends. Maybe you get money from babysitting, or maybe you volunteer, to cut your neighbor's grass for $10 a week in the summer. So again, your income, you might have an opportunity for some income. It may vary month to month, but you should maybe be able to come up with some little ways that you're earning your own money. And as you find, some of you might even have a part-time job while you're in high school that we can factor in. So let's take a look at an example of income for Jane, who is a 10th grader. Okay, now in her chart, she has some sources of income. She has a part-time job. She babysits, she gets an allowance, and she's also accounting those gifts and presents that she gets. So looking at her monthly income, for a part-time job, she makes about $330. Now, to calculate this into our yearly amount, you would be multiplying by 12, since there are 12 months in a year. So 330 times 12, and again, we multiply by 12, and we're going to get 3,960. Babysitting, she put down here that she roughly makes $50 a month. Now, it could vary from month to month, but that was her average. So we multiply that by 12 every year. That's $60 she makes babysitting. $40 is what she gets from parents, is what she said. $10 a week from parents, 4 weeks in a month, so that's roughly around 40. When we multiply that by 12 in a year, she's going to make $480 from an allowance. And then last but not least, gifts and presents, birthdays, for the holiday, etc. It does vary each month. If you're like, I have two daughters who were born more around Christmas, so they get crushed in the later half of the year. But then February, March, April, nothing. It's very dry. So it does vary month to month. It doesn't really make sense to put it in monthly, but you may estimate something like you make $150, let's say, in birthday gifts and holiday gifts, meaning kind of cash, because we're looking at cash value. All right, so then to find our yearly total, we're going to add up all of these numbers. So anytime we're looking for total, it's the operation of addition. So get out your calculators, add up all those totals. And we'll find that Jane makes a total, again, estimated total of $5,190. So that's how much she makes each year. All right, so now it's your turn. Think about your own situation. So I want you to fill in the chart below sharing your monthly and yearly income. It's okay if you don't know exactly your income. It's just an estimate. So your sources of income might be different, but you could use these as a guide. Do you have a part-time job? Do you babysit? Do you have an allowance? Do you have gifts that you get? So I want you to go ahead and estimate, write down your sources of income. Tell me what you make monthly. Tell me what you make yearly. Again, moving from monthly to yearly, make sure you're multiplying by 12, and then find your total. All right, so part two, we looked at income. The The second part is all about expenses. So let's take a look at calculating your monthly and yearly spending. So for this activity, we're going to assume that all of your major basic needs, like your housing, your clothes, utilities, food, all of that are taken care of by those who live with. Below in the chart, I want you to kind of outline any kind of expenses that you fund, that you pay for, out of, maybe your little savings that you have or the money that you do have for your income. So again, below in this chart is just some suggested expenses that I'd like for you to estimate. But you may not spend money in all the categories. So put an X in a box for those that you do not need. So for example, the first one says clothing, something extra you bought. So maybe you were really eyeing up a nice pair of shoes. You went out and you did buy those. Maybe you're not a clothing person. If it is something you absolutely would not spend your money on, X, mark it off. Food. Do you like to buy snacks? Do you like to go to the mini mart and get a drink? Do you like to, eat out for lunch on a half day after school? Any of those, if it is your own money, go ahead and put that down. Again, it might be something that you might give me more of a yearly average. You might want to do monthly average, but if it doesn't apply to you, again, you can put a box. There's fun expenses, things to take a look at. Do you go to the movies? Do you buy video games? Do you like app purchases? Do you have an iTunes account? What about that pool membership? Anything that is something that's fun that you do on your own. Personal expenses. Again, these might be covered by your parents, but just things to think about. If you like to have your nails done all the time, and that's maybe something extra that mom said you had to spend your money on. Highlights for a haircut or something like that. Transportation. Some of you may, hook up with a Pat bus or catch an Uber somewhere. Any of those are just, expenses that might be on your plate. And then anything else, if you can think of something else that you spend your money on that I didn't think of or didn't put down, please feel free to share. All right, so the whole reason behind calculating your income and expenses is to see if they balance and stay within a budget. A budget is a plan for your money that outlines what you bring in and what you spend. You can't spend more than you bring in or you'll be over budget and in some trouble. Now, when you're younger, you're lucky that, typically if you don't have the money, you're not spending it because you don't have it. But it's also good to kind of even just know how this relationship works, because when you're older, you do have means to buy things when you can't afford it. So that's when you kind of get into some debt and some larger issues, or things are just shut off, or you're evicted from your house, or, there's definitely more of a consequence. So it's good to kind of explore it. All right, so let's look at these two scenarios here. And again, this is just kind of looks at that to determine if you're in budget, you subtract your expenses from your income, meaning you take your income and you subtract your expense. Here's kind of like your mini problem. So if I look at this first one, Mary's income is $2,500, $2,550, and we're going to subtract what she spends, $2,680, and find our answer there. So when I do my subtraction problem, I find that my answer is negative 130. So just taking a look at that, what does negative mean as far as money? That you're below zero, right? And that you're over budget. This person spent more than what they can afford. So this person, Mary, you are over budget. This is not good. Let's take a look at Joe. Joe over here. Joe's income is $700. His expenses total $550. So if we do 700, again, we subtract our expenses, we get positive 150. Now again, anything positive is good. That means you are in budget, meaning that you still have $150 in your pocket, in the bank, wherever, but you didn't spend all your money. Again, negatives are bad, positives are good. All right, so now your turn. Does your spending balance with your income? Use the information from the yellowed boxes. So if you look on part 1, here is your sources of income. This would have been your income for the year. Part 2, you listed what your expenses are. So again, that yellow box. I know it may not be yellow on your end, so that's what I was showing you. You take your income, You subtract your expenses and tell me your monthly balance, and then tell me, what does that mean? Is it positive or negative, and what does it mean? All right, so for the rest of the week, tomorrow is a work from home day. It's a FID day. So there is an extra credit opportunity that extends this lesson that I'd like to kind of go over with you. So in your package, you're going to see this part 3 extra credit. You have this similar chart, but I want you to maybe ask a parent about your true expenses if you had to take care of all of your needs, even the basic ones. So you're going to kind of, in a sense, add up your total expense to be you, and can you afford it? There again, suggestions are given below for expense categories, but feel free to add any other expenses that might come up in your conversation with a parent. But I think this is eye-opening for you to kind of realize like how much it takes to kind of live on your own. And then we can complete this bottom section together when you come back to school. All right, so good luck to you. If you need any help, please reach out. Like I said, Monday, if you didn't do the lesson, you can join along and fill that out in your packet. And then Tuesday's the extra credit activity. You can bring both of them in or submit them via picture the next time you're in person.